Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Manny, and this is Mondays with Manny, episode number 6. This one's called Karate and Dog Training. So, for those of you guys that follow my page, you know I oftentimes like to find parallels between the world of dog training and my past experiences, and one of those is the martial arts. For many, many years, I practiced Japanese karate, Shorin-Ru Shorin-Kan, and one of the core beliefs in that self-defense system is just that. There's no first strike to karate. We practice self-defense first, so only when absolutely necessary do we use our skills for combat. Uh, but as beginners, we obviously don't come with those skills to be able to defend ourselves. The actual fight or the situation where I might need to defend myself, that's like the show, right? And we don't just put on a show for an audience, we prepare ourselves with practice and rehearsal and what have you. And so I want you guys to think about dog training in the same way that I learned how to defend myself in that particular fighting system. So, because it's Japanese karate, one of the things we practiced was called kata. And I just want to make sure I get the verbiage down 100%, so I'm going to refer to my computer here in a second. But kata was a series of patterns, a sequence of movements that we would practice in order to prepare ourselves to access certain types of movements for when a fight might happen. So let me just read this to you. So kata, a system of individual training exercises for the practitioners of karate and other martial arts. So this was how self-defense techniques were passed down through the generations from martial artist to martial artist, or to prospective martial artists, was through these patterns. A specific series of special movements that represented a certain kind of movement when I'm supposed to defend myself from an attacker, right? So that's the practice, that's the acquisition stage, or acquiring techniques for accessing defending myself, or means for defending myself. Then there is a sort of a transitional point of the training, a higher level, an intermediate level, whatever you want to call it, where we would practice something called bunkai. And bunkai is literally meaning analysis or disassembly. It's a term used in Japanese martial arts referring to the process of analyzing the kata. Remember, the kata was the pattern of movements that self-defense techniques were passed down to, or how they were passed down. So bunkai is the process of analyzing those patterns and extracting fighting techniques from the movements of a form or that kata. So it's quite literally taking that pattern that we practiced and memorized and drilled and repeated over and over and over again, and then extracting from it the specific pieces of movement that were blocking an upward attack, or counter striking, or blocking a downward attack, or what have you, getting into the actual mechanics of how do I defend myself based off of movements that I acquired and learned and practiced. And you notice we're still not actually fighting. We're not actually in combat. There's a final phase, if you will, past bunkai, or the analysis of kata, and that's actual combat. The real world scenario, in the thick of it, someone's attacking, I have to defend myself. I'm practicing self-defense or fighting. Right. So again, my point behind all of this is that we don't join martial arts, a particular fighting system, and just expect to be able to defend ourselves in an actual attack. There's stages or steps to that behavior change and to acquiring that skill. First, we have to learn a set of movements and become really fluid in that pattern, and make it automatic and easily accessible. Then we practice those movements in almost a real world situation where we're extracting bits of information from those patterns and putting them into practical application, and then comes the fight. Okay, so you can see how there's stages there, and what I want you to understand is that it's the exact same thing with behavior change and dog training, and or behavior in our dogs, I should say. So with dog training, take on-leash behavior. The dog is being reactive on the leash or what have you, or darting out the front door, jumping on guests, peeing in the house, whatever the problem is. I want you to understand that problem, that in comparison is like combat, right? That's the in the moment. I need to quickly access the training to be able to change the behavior, right? But it doesn't start there. We can't expect to train our dog in the moment if the dog doesn't know a series of movements, a pattern to draw a specific skill from to apply to that situation. Make sense? So we have to backtrack a little bit and understand that first, we need to teach our dog the dog training version of kata. We need to practice drills and exercises that create predictable pattern for our dog to be able to follow, like the front door, for instance. If I don't want my dog jumping on guests and darting through the front door, I need to practice things like knocking, ringing the doorbell, sending the dog to a spot, and then rewarding the dog, walking away from him, opening the door, and rewarding the dog, and repeating lots of variation of that if I want my dog to then understand how to eventually do it for a person. But there's still a middle ground that needs to happen. We can't just teach our dog some basic movement and then expect for him to hold that position when the postman comes, right? We need that secondary phase, or like I was describing with the parallels in martial arts, we need the bunkai. We need to be able to analyze that basic pattern that we created for the dog, teaching him how to look, teaching him how to sit, how to hold a spot, those types of things. And we need to be able to utilize those fundamental movements in an almost practical situation. And what am I talking about? This is in dog training, a very common term is the 3Ds: the distance, distraction, and duration. And it's the same idea here. First, I teach my dog a basic pattern of expectation, reward him, what have you, lots of different ways to get there. Then I take that pattern and I make it more difficult, right? And I make it more realistic. I add distractions, amount of time on the spot, what have you, right? And then once we've acquired that secondary piece, then we're in a much, much better place to practice those types of patterns or that type of interaction in a real world situation when a guest comes over, for instance, or when we're passing another dog on the walk, or whatever the situation is. You have to understand, if you want really successful behavior change in a reasonable amount of time with your dog, you need to look at it like the stages of learning martial arts. It's compartmentalized progressive stages before you can expect your dog to perform in the actual problem situation that you have. So to recap, first we need to teach our dog the dog training version of kata, introduce a series of patterns that the dog can practice to be successful at. Then we need to teach our dog the dog training equivalent of bunkai, which is extracting from those patterns things that are applicable to a real situation. This is where we're adding distraction and duration and difficulty and all of that, right? Then once we've acquired those first two stages, then we should start visiting, practicing those movements and those patterns and that series of events in the actual situation. Someone's arrived at the door or whatever it is. Okay, so learning a basic pattern, making the basic pattern more difficult, and then going back to training in the real world situation or proofing your interaction. If you want to be successful with your dog overall, think about it like teaching your dog karate. And I bet you've never heard a dog trainer talk about karate and how similar it is to dog training. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. This was Mondays with Manny, episode 6, Karate and Dog Training, and good luck to you.